If you're like me and you love ninja movies from the 80s, you're going to want to watch this. You've probably seen The Octagon, American Ninja, and maybe even Ninja 3: The Domination, with stars like Chuck Norris, Sho Kosugi, and Michael Dudikoff. But how many of you have heard of John Liu's masterpiece, New York Ninja? Not many of you, I'm sure, and that's completely understandable because the film was shot in the summer of 1984 and sat, unassembled, on a shelf for nearly 40 friggin' years. How did that happen? Well, let's reform the ninja empire and find out. So back in 1984, a Taiwanese martial artist named John Liu, who was no stranger to the kung fu movie scene, decided he's going to make a badass ninja movie. He had previously acted in around 20 martial arts films, the most famous being the Secret Rivals trilogy.
You're a very tough fighter.
He also directed 3 films, each of which bombed at the box office. But this film he had in mind would be different. Not only would it have ninjas, but it would be filmed in New York City, and not the present-day Disneyland version of the Big Apple. This was peak shithole, crime-ridden, crumb-bum, creep-filled New York City. Taxi driver New York City. The kind of place where you wouldn't blink twice if you saw a guy in a ninja suit beating the snot out of a mugger. Liu not only directs, but he stars in the film as well. And from what can be gleaned from the footage, he had no script. He just went out and filmed
fights and chases with fights on roller skates and captive women and a radioactive guy with a rat tail eating weirdo and tons of other shit you just gotta see to believe.
And then, after filming was complete, poof, Liu disappears. Just like a ninja. The movie never gets finished, and the footage is abandoned and dumped in a storage vault. The New York Ninja becomes a forgotten relic of its time. Cut to 2019, and the film reels are rediscovered by Vinegar Syndrome, a company that specializes in restoring old, forgotten cult classics. Vinegar Syndrome would often buy film catalogs of movie distribution companies that have since gone bankrupt. One of those companies was 21st Century Distribution that went belly up in the 80s. A worker at Vinegar Syndrome noticed a cardboard box on a shelf labeled New York Ninja. Inside the box was a number of film canisters. They cracked open the canisters and realized they'd found a full, unedited, and silent martial arts movie. No script, no sound, and no idea what the plot was supposed to be. Just a big old pile of ninja chaos. Spearheaded by a Vinegar Syndrome worker named Curtis Spieler, who was also an independent filmmaker on the side, they pieced together the footage like some kind of cinematic archaeologist in an attempt to somehow make sense of all the madness. They originally considered bringing in a lip reader, but that idea was scratched due to the enormity of the job and the lack of coverage and many incomplete shots that were filmed. So, since there was no audio, they had to completely redub everything from scratch. But instead of getting nobodies to do the voices, Spieler decided to go full kung fu movie nostalgia mode and hire a bunch of 80s action legends to dub the characters. We're talking Don the Dragon Wilson, Cynthia Rothrock, Michael Berryman, Linnea Quigley, and Leon Isaac Kennedy, to name a few. For the soundtrack, they didn't just slap some stock royalty-free crap on this thing. No, they went full 80s synthwave glory with a band called Voyager. When you hear it, you'll understand why. New York Ninja appeared on my radar well before it was released, and I had pre-ordered a Blu-ray copy from Vinegar Syndrome. But by the time it arrived at my house, the Quentin Tarantino-owned New Beverly Theater in Hollywood planned to show the film for the first time publicly on the big screen. So instead of cracking my copy of the movie open, I waited until I could watch it on the big screen surrounded by other excited moviegoers like myself. I should add that it was part of a double feature, and it was paired with not only the greatest ninja movie of all time, but possibly the greatest movie ever made, Miami Connection. Maybe we'll talk about that at some other time. In attendance at the premiere was Curtis Spieler, the previously mentioned Vinegar Syndrome worker who originally came up with the whole idea of making this movie happen in the first place, and he's credited as the film's co-director. During the Q&A, he said how they originally cut the film in numeric order according to the way the scenes were labeled, and the film made absolutely no sense. It was at that point that Spieler said, screw that, and he got the okay to cut the film in the most comprehensive way that he thought the story would make any semblance of sense at all. The final result, is it any good? Yes. It's obviously not Citizen Kane, but if you're looking for the kind of movie you can watch with a group of friends, a couple of beers, and a strong appreciation for cinematic insanity, this is the one. The fight scenes are at times pretty clunky. And the bad guys are like cartoon characters on crack.
Get the fuck off.
And the plot? I think it's something about a plutonium killer that kidnaps women. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a fucking blast. Huge kudos to everyone involved in its production. Many of them who will go unnamed because no production records were ever found. Where are they now? To this day, most of the cast remains unidentified, and none of the actors have come forward to claim their fame. It's quite possible they aren't even aware of the cult status they've since attained. According to the booklet A Tale of Two Ninjas that was included with the Blu-ray of the movie, an attempt was made to track down the mysterious director/star John Liu. Vinegar Syndrome did find a friend of John's who said he was currently living off the grid somewhere in Vietnam, and that any attempts to reach him regarding any of his movies wouldn't get very far. The filmmakers, quote, talked about our intention with New York Ninja, and the friend supposedly passed on the message to John. We were given the message of good luck and nothing else. And that is where the search for John Liu ended. If you're interested in checking out New York Ninja, try checking it out for free on Tubi, or you can order a copy from Vinegar Syndrome. That's it for today's episode, and hey, if you love ridiculous movies, comic books, music, toys, any shit like that, hit the subscribe and like button. And tell your friends too. Hey, and leave a comment. We answer every one of them.